Superman is a quintessential American superhero. His ability to bend steel with his bare hands may have patriotic origins because, interestingly, Stalin means steel in Russian. In early Superman comics, Superman was a flat character whose powers allowed him to win black and white conflicts between good and evil. For instance, in the first Superman comic, Action Comics #1, Superman saves the kidnapped Lois Lane, stops the execution of an innocent, and fights against a crooked senator. However, he fails to explore the underlying, gray area ideological and moral conflicts of sexism, the problems in the justice system, and political corruption. Such flat characterization was a staple in the golden age of comics, but in subsequent eras, superhero morality became increasingly complex in response to socio-political developments like recreational drug use. In the modern age, comic book culture has been transformed by the development of alternative reality comics, which provide further routes for exploration of superhero morality. Now, superheroes owe their complex moral icons not just to confrontations with actual political events, but also to confrontations with alternative histories. In the specific case of Superman, Red Son, multidimensional investigation of the morality of a Soviet Superman operates in a nature versus nurture framework. Dialogue creates this framework by developing 3 stages of evolving audience perceptions of Superman's morality: initial fear and tension, restored trust, and finally, a looming doubt. Dialogue also serves to create an engaging and cohesive comic by converting visible information in the verbal and written modes to invisible information in the oral and nonverbal modes, as in the case of tone and body language. Dialogue analysis begins with Stage 1 perceptions, in which fear develops because it is not yet known whether Superman's communist upbringing will corrupt his good nature. Because the audience is already familiar with the premise of Superman, Red Son Rising, due to the popularity of Superman, it is difficult for the writer, Millar, to build tension. However, Millar uses the familiarity of his audience to his advantage, using dramatic irony and dialogue to create suspense. The reader will hope that the costumed individual is not Superman, but also recognize a degree of inevitability. A marriage between Lois Lane and Lex Luthor shows that something is fundamentally amiss in this universe, but when Lois corrects herself, it seems that she too can perceive the disturbance. The visible words written in the panel create a perception of invisible body language. The audience imagines Lois to be shaking her head, as if in a daze. Lois's unease only increases the disquietude the audience feels about this new universe and its meaning for Superman's morality. Furthermore, her self-correction, the repetition of her married name, and its bold face make the reality of the alternative universe absolute, which prevents the audience from escaping and returning to the American Superman. It is almost as if this universe is a nightmare that the reader cannot wake up from. While previous dialogue has focused on abstract and growing fear of Superman, dialogue now shows him becoming a tangible threat, which decreases the legitimacy of claims that he is a moral being. In this panel, dialogue acts like a sensationalized news story to capture attention and make Superman comparable to a big brother figure, once again increasing fear of Superman's morality. At this point, Stage 2 dialogue begins to restore the viewer's faith in Superman's innate goodness. The comment of Lois's boss is ironic because American news companies would be fighting for the opportunity to publish the same nationalist stories if Superman were an American citizen, implying that a Soviet Superman, and by extension his morality, might not be that different from an American one. Besides occurring between characters, a type of dialogue also exists directly between Superman and the comic reader. When Superman reveals to the viewer that he holds himself to high moral standards, he challenges the previous perception of being a valid threat to American security. The manner in which information in the written mode of communication is converted to the verbal and nonverbal modes creates an assertive and personal conversation between the reader and Superman. The reader imagines Superman to be holding firm eye contact, adopting a confident posture, and speaking in a calm and self-assured tone. Because of Superman's firmness in his convictions, the reader finds it difficult not to believe in the high morality of his icon. Dialogue which decreases America's moral credibility only makes a Soviet Superman look better. Although American Agent Olsen clearly vocalizes doubts about Luthor's government-funded plan, his complaints are an emotionless afterthought, as the audience recognizes a neutral, verbal mode tone upon interpreting the visual and written mode information in the panel. Agent Olsen's dialogue is thus more of a callous attack on Luthor's logic and intellect than an ethical objection to jeopardizing American lives. Luthor's response has an equally cold tone. The contrast between the dialogue of the Americans and Superman's lofty conversation with the readers shows that pre-held notions about good and evil have no place in this universe, so even a Soviet Superman can be good. It is difficult to trust a leader with unchecked powers, but Superman's dialogue when greeting an old friend makes him seem like an average, harmless human and increase audience trust in his icon. Even though Superman's face is partially hidden by shadow, the dialogue's excited tone allows his expression to be interpreted as a smile, engaging the reader with a conversion of written information to nonverbal. Diana's comment may just be a reflection of Superman's appeal to her, but it also has symbolic applications. A human tendency to associate height with positive character traits such as power exists. The rich are part of the upper classes. An upright man is fair and honest. To stand tall is to act with confidence. Diana's line creates a subconscious, positive view of Superman's morality in the audience. Dialogue turns perceptions to their third and final stage, doubt of Superman's character. This doubt is not concrete, but rather a barely conscious suggestion. For instance, when Wonder Woman's mother discusses Stalin's crimes openly, the audience must wonder why Superman chooses to ally himself with a man whose abuses of human rights are public knowledge. Throughout the comic, it is emphasized that Superman's principles keep him out of politics, so his sudden willingness to take power is unsettling. In his dialogue, Superman never provides answers as to how he will avoid the authoritarian abuses of his predecessor, leaving the audience with a lingering doubt about his morality. At best, he is naive, and at worst, he is already consumed by power. Dialogue has created a constantly developing and engaging narrative of Superman's morality, which effectively synthesizes the woven modes of communication and shifts audience perceptions. Overall, nature has won over nurture because dialogue shows that Superman, even as a Soviet citizen, will retain his inherent goodness. However, the matter is not yet fully settled, as final dialogue implies that Superman may soon lose that goodness as a result of the political system he is a part of. The characterization built by this dialogue makes Superman a much more morally complex icon than his Golden Age counterpart, and is an effective example of how the development of alternative reality comics has transformed comic book culture, enabling the addition of further dimensions to superhero morality.